Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure, is proud to partner with the Huntsville Police Citizens Foundation. This organization exists for the sole purpose of providing resources and assistance to our local law enforcement community. You can become a partner with us and go to hpcitizensfoundation.org and make a direct donation, or you could participate in our police memorial and buy a brick in honor of someone that you know or love, or you could come out and be a part of the Pill Hill Classic Run that is going to be revived in the Huntsville area. The run will take place on March the 30th. You can sponsor a runner, sponsor a team, or just sponsor the event in some way. All the funds will go directly to the Huntsville Police Citizens Foundation in us building a bedrock of financial resources to give assistance to our local law enforcement community. hpcitizensfoundation.org and Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. TKM Incorporated is a sponsor of Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. This construction company in Moss, Tennessee specializes in erosion control. They do seeding in soil using hydro seeding and hydromulch, minor excavation, silt fencing, traffic control, and construction signs. I had the privilege to hang out with Nick Melton of TKM Incorporated, and when I mean hang out with him, I mean spend some personal time. His boys and I and him did some tree climbing at a park in Salina, Tennessee. We did a little Brazilian jiu-jitsu in a pavilion at the same park. We've had breakfast together, and I got invited to work out with them at a CrossFit gym, and they nearly killed me. And I've also been to church with Nick Melton. Nick likes to say that TKM stands for the King's Men, because you see, his mission in his life is that they serve the King. And if you want this guy and their company to do some work for you while they serve the King, you can contact them at 931-243-3958. That is 931-243-3958. The King's Men. I can't ignore it. I can't deny it. I'm guilty. I've said it. Now, it involves a little bit of hyperbole, but in talking with my friends and in joking about people that irritate us or people that are problematic, people that are chronically problematic, I've been known to express my disdain for those kind of problem people by saying, you know, there's probably 100 people you could pay me to kill. But that guy, I'd probably volunteer to do him for free. Now, as this metric for measuring my disdain for people has grown, we've added a third layer to it, and it goes like this. You know, there's probably 100 people you could pay me to kill. This few people right here, I would do for free. But there's even an elite circle of people that irritate me to the point that I would hire a guide and buy a permit in order to hunt those people down. Now, I'm guilty of saying that. I really don't mean it. It's a hyperbolic statement, but I get reminded of that by my friends all the time who tell me, hey, you're guilty of saying this. Well, in the list of people that are I would buy the permit and hire a guide, number one is the dude that invented Pinterest. I don't know if it's a dude or a girl, but somebody had this idea. Hey, we're going to take all these lovely little projects and we're going to put them on social media so you can click your computer and find out the things you're inadequate at doing, whether it's cooking, baking, sewing. And if there's any little project you want to do, ta-da, pin it and make somebody do it. And really what it boils down to is wives see these things and they make their husbands learn to do them. My daughter thinks that there is a wormhole connecting Pinterest to my workshop. And if she sees it on Pinterest and she sends me a picture of it, then the next time she rolls into the driveway and raises the garage door, there in my workshop, it should magically appear. And if I can find the dude that put these ideas in her head, I will make them disappear. I can't believe that my life has been turned upside down by this little thing on the internet that says, hey, pin this and make your father create it. It doesn't matter if I've got the tools to do it. It doesn't matter if I've got the time to do it. It doesn't matter if I've even got the skill to do it. If it shows up on Pinterest, it's supposed to show up in my workshop. The second person on the list is whoever this engineer is that came up with these little tire sensors. The things that you put in a tire that tells you that the tire is low, that the tire it needs air, that the tire has to have pressure. Listen, I'm telling you something. The tire sensors in women, this is unbelievable. My wife can drive her car, and she can drive it for days or weeks or months and never ever look at the gas gauge. Just absolutely forget the thing runs on gas. And the next time we get in her car, I say, oh, by the way, I need to get gas. And it's typically, hey, we're going to take my car, your car, let's take my car. So we hop in her little car, we take off. Oh, by the way, I've got to stop and get gas. And it's usually pouring down rain, a wind chill factor of negative 47, and it's freezing to death. And I've got to be the guy that gets out and pump the gas. Now, she can ignore tools. Hey, honey, have you seen my whatever? No, I haven't seen it, which means since I can't find it, she's had it. She's had it and put it somewhere, doesn't remember what it was called, doesn't remember that she used it, doesn't remember that she took it to some craft party and left it there or decided to put it in her box of things. You know, walk around the house for months and Christmas decorations are still up. And there's certain things that have to be done in the house that she doesn't like to do. And sometimes the solution to that is we'll just close that door. And we just ignore that stuff. We ignore the gas gauge. We ignore where the tools come from. We ignore the Christmas decorations. We ignore certain house jobs. But, buddy, you let that tire sensor pop open. You let that little icon show up on that dashboard, and those numbers have to match. Now, in her adult life, before those things were invented, she's never walked around the car and looked at those tires. She's never decided, hey, I'm going to get in this car, and before I get in this car, I'm going to walk around that car and look at those. She's never done it. She's never checked the oil. She's never checked the wiper blades. She's never checked the coolant. She's never checked the transmission fluid. She can ignore a brake squealer like she ignores a speed limit sign. But you let that little tire pressure gremlin grin at her, and all of a sudden we've got a problem we must address. We've got to check my tires. We've got to inflate my tires. Listen, those little sensors are affected by cold. They're affected by heat. Sometimes they're just defective. Forget being affected. They're just defective. Listen, I drove a 68 Chevrolet Impala named West Wind, and I drove it on recap tires, and sometimes those tires were so thin you could see the air in them, and I drove that thing for years. I drove it on 8-hour trips back and forth to Harding University, and I never, ever, ever had to worry about my tires being balanced or out of balance. Those tires just ran. She drives a Lexus, and Lexus can't get their tire pressure right. Lexus can't make their... The little gremlin grins at her and says, hey, there's something wrong with the tire pressure, and it's immediately of national concern. You've got to stop and check that thing. Now the funny thing about Jackie is when she tries to inflate her own tires, her grip is not very strong, and so she puts the little tire thing into the valve stem, and she says, well, I hear it making this hissing noise, but my tire never gets any fuller. Well, if you attach the little valve thing to it and it hisses, you're letting air out of the tire. You're not putting air in the tire. But you let that little tire thing grin at her, let the little tire gremlin pop up, and it has to be addressed. It's almost obsessive. And that's the way the world works. You bring attention to something and it gets noticed. You've heard the phrase, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, the tire pressure icon rules the world. You bring attention to it and it gets worried about. Well, in life, if you have these little lights that come on, you have these little things that catch your attention. If you bring attention to it, it's going to get measured. It's going to get noticed. It's going to get worried about. And we have these little gauges that go off in our lives that we worry about our status, about our success, about motherhood, about parenting, about wealth, about masculinity, about spirituality. We have these little warning lights that go off, and when we look at these things and we feel compelled to add pressure to ourselves in these areas so that they match the people that we're comparing them to. Here's 4 tires and they all have to match. Well, here's 4 friends and they all have to match. Here's 4 marriages and they all have to match. Here's 4 careers and they all have to match. we get these little lights, these little status things that pop up, and they require pressure. The warning lights are easy to ignore. I've got a check engine light that's been on in my truck. And in fact, I drive a Toyota Tacoma. I've got two Toyota Tacomas. One has just under 200,000 miles on it. The other one has 437,000 miles on it. And if your check engine light comes on, it's probably because your catalytic converter went south. But we don't have those kind of regulations in Alabama, so I don't worry about it. As long as that check engine light's not blinking, you really can just ignore it. I pulled into one of those little oil change places one time. I don't remember if it was just to get the oil change or something else. And of course, the young man's trying to upsell me. And he says, "Do you realize your check engine light is on?" I said, "Young man, this check engine light has been on longer than you've been alive." And I've been driving with a check engine light on my truck for months or even years in the case of the other Toyota. And it's not a big deal. I was coming from M2Y, the Ministering to Youth Conference. It'll be this year at Heritage Christian University in Florence, Alabama. It's in the first weekend in November, but I was in Pigeon Forge for this year's M2Y, and I had to leave M2Y and drive all the way from Pigeon Forge to Mobile to do a crisis intervention training with my friend Johnny Hollingsworth. And so I leave M2Y and I'm driving basically, from the furthest eastern part of Tennessee to the furthest southern part of Alabama. And I'm driving down, I-75 just north of Knoxville. And I noticed that the little icon on my truck has popped on, the check tire pressure. And I was going to get gas anyway. So I pulled over at the next exit and I pulled in and I pumped the gas and I pulled over to the little air gauge and I put air in my tire, and I left the little thing on so it would show me that this tire has this much air and this tire has this much air. And when I got in and restarted the car, I noticed that gauge began to drop, and it began to drop rapidly. Hey, I had a problem with a tire and I was about to be stranded. Instead of having to change the tire, there was a Walmart a half a mile away, and their tire center was open, and they fixed my tire and they set me up, and I didn't have to spend, part of the afternoon, changing a tire. So this tire pressure light that I tell my wife to ignore, it came on in my truck, and it was actually a problem. I was actually going to have a flat. I was actually going to be stranded. So the trick is, when do you ignore the pressure? And when do you address the pressure? And really, when do you add pressure? What you're really looking for is balance. What you're looking for in your life is symmetry. Is your life warped? Is it skewed? Is it out of proportion? Or is there balance? Do you have balance in this area? And do you have balance between these areas, spiritually, socially, physically, emotionally, financially? Well, to decide whether you need to ignore it, address it, or add pressure to it, the first thing you got to have a good gauge. You got to have a way to objectively measure what this needs. Just because the thing is flashing doesn't always mean that you need to add air to it. So you need a gauge. You have to have people in your life that you can trust to give you an objective read, and not just the comparison thing where we compare ourselves to others or we compare others to ourselves. You have to have someone or someones in your life that you can trust to be truthful, and you can look at them and say, hey, in this area of my life, does this seem to be low? Does this seem to be out of balance? Does this seem to be overinflated? Or does this seem to be flat? And you have to have people who are successful in those areas that you can trust. People who have shown a modicum of maturity and a modicum of success so that they're a good way to measure. You got to have an expert in the area, and they got to be people that you trust to be people of integrity. Now, if you find an area in your life that is low, that is out of balance, that is overinflated or about to be flat, then you need to find a way, you need to find someone to add pressure to that area. So I've got this area in my life and it needs pressure. I got to have somebody who has accountability with me. I got to find somebody that provides accountability or requires accountability. It can be a mentor. It can be a coach. It can be an advisor. It can be a counselor. It can be a minister. It can be a friend. It can be a workout partner. Sometimes I even say it can be an adversary or an opponent or a competitor, as iron sharpens iron. If you're playing a sport or you're working out or you're doing jujitsu, you don't want to be the best guy in the room. You want to find the best guy in the room and you want to work out with him. You want to be able to put pressure on yourself so that your workouts aren't easy, your workouts aren't boring, and you want to have that iron sharpens iron. You want to be in a situation where you require yourself to feel the pressure in the area of your life that needs to be inflated, in the area in your life where things are low or things are getting flat. You need to add pressure. It's what we call intentional adversity. Strength and endurance comes from the pain of discipline. And the pain of discipline is the pressure of discomfort. And those two things added into our lives, intentional and adversity. I do things that you will not, so I can do things that you cannot. That's a choice. I do things that you don't want to do, and I do things that you want to do so that I can continue to do the things that you can't do. And so you add the pain of discipline, and you add the pain of pressure, and you add the pain of discomfort, and they expand us such that we are able to run smooth, we're able to run a long time, and we're able to run balanced. The only way to address anxiety is through exposure. As my friend Mark Plemons says, the only way to run faster is to run faster. I've looked at the studies and the statements by Eric Anders and guys like Malcolm Gladwell, and they talk about that in order to master anything, you need 10,000 hours of experience. But let me tell you something, that 10,000 hours of experience does not account for intensity. You see, 2,000 hours with the right pressure is far superior to 5,000 hours with low pressure. The pressure that you're willing to subject yourself to has to be the right balance. If you don't have enough, it doesn't do you any good. And if you have too much, then you can explode. So the light comes on. The little pressure light blinks. Now you've got to address it. You've got to verify, number one, that it's accurate and it's necessary to address. Is it a false alarm? Is it a distraction? Is it an obsession? Is it something that is overinflated? Or is it something that's telling you here's an area that needs pressure? Here's an area that needs something added to it. Here's an area that you need to fill up so that you'll have a balance and you'll run smooth. Knowing when to adjust the pressure, knowing when to adjust to the pressure warning, and knowing when to ignore the pressure will definitely have an impact on your drive. Using the tool of shortwave radio, World Christian Broadcasting literally covers the world every day with the gospel. They use two large curtain antennas. One is located in Anchor Point, Alaska, and the other in Madagascar. They send out messages that are recorded at their international home in Franklin, Tennessee. They make available 40 hours of broadcast every day. The broadcasts are made in English, Chinese, Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Korean, English for Africa, and Arabic. They would love for your group to visit them. You can bring your ladies group, your youth group, or your men's group. Just give them a call at 615-371-8707, 615-371-8707, or you can go to worldchristian.org, find the Donate Here button, and make a financial contribution to support this work that literally covers the world every day with the gospel. World Christian Broadcasting, in cooperation with Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. Keeping Up with Jones, the Lonnie Jones podcast adventure. I am your host, Lonnie Jones. My wife Jackie and I moved to the city of Huntsville in 1986 for me to be a youth and family minister. I have been a minister since 1980. I have served in this community as a police chaplain assigned to a SWAT team since 1992, and I've been in private practice as a licensed professional counselor since 1998. I'm also an adventure educator and an avid outdoorsman. I dabble in rock climbing and I goof around with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Our life has been full of many wonderful experiences and some just outright adventures. I used to write about those things in a little church bulletin article. So now instead of asking you to read those things, we're just going to talk about them in our podcast. And as we talk about them, we're going to talk about the facts. The facts lead to concepts, and the concepts lead to application. One caveat about the facts is, for the most part, we're going to tell you the facts just as they happened. But every now and then, we're going to tell you the way other people have told us they remember it happening with a little bit of embellishment. It's all good, clean fun and for educational purposes. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy Keeping Up with Jones.